to EQ Above IQ Parenting with Emotional Intelligence and Healing the Inner Child. My name is Trina Casey, and as usual, I am your host. Hoping everyone is warm, safe, and sheltered out in the different parts of the world that are being bombarded by weather storms, whether it's hurricanes, tornadoes, and other very strange and seemingly unnatural weather patterns. I've got my theories around that, but I won't get into that right now. As usual, the world is in a bit of an upheaval, and I call that hegemony death throes. I have been watching, I haven't been recording any podcasts the last month and a half because, first of all, there's just been so much going on. I didn't know which topic to focus on for an episode. It's utter madness. The exposure of underground trafficking networks, which I think that we all already knew about these things. And so that's what I'm going to focus a little bit on today. Not the networks itself, but our knowing and our lack of call to action. The idea of if it ain't me, it ain't a problem. This sort of a hegemonic narcissism that has infused our world and our society is why we are in the state that we are in. I always call the few elites, the 1%, psychopathic parasites that, use the world as their toilet. Who they are, we know it's majority the 1% of the world. And the sad part for me as a parent and a mother is that what we are doing as a collective society is allowing very sick people to lead us. And why? How? Why is it so easy for us to fall into this stupor of non-caring narcissism? Well, fear. They've been very good over the centuries of convincing us that we're mindless and, powerless beasts. And I use that word beast because there is a book called The Terror Papers where the author talks about the Hopi Indian creation story. I am very much a nerd, but I'm a ravenous learner. I love to read and love to learn. I love to connect dots. And that's why a part of my coaching practice is collect a polymathic mind, meaning collect knowledge. Okay. If you want to go read that book, you can find it online for free. Of course, it was poo-pooed by the power structure, but it has strong correlations with the Sumerian tablets and other ancient texts. Robert Morning Sky is the author of this book. So go take a look at it. It's fabulous. It's interesting. And what my son said when he started to read it was, it reminds me of Star Wars. Yeah. Or Star Wars reminds you of it. It was published, I think, before Star Wars. So my point is that there are people in places in power of position, especially media, that basically kind of push the consciousness of the mind of the people in one particular direction of belief or sometimes disbelief. I think that what people don't recognize is that a lot of people in charge of this world, the hegemonic forces of this world, let me correct something. The Terror Papers was published in 96, but the Hopi creation story has been around for thousands of years. So just to be clear, but there are people who are controlling the narrative through books, in particular religious texts. When a book like the Bible has been written over and over, like, I don't know, like it's been, how many times? I gotta look that up. How many times has this? 450 times. Ooh, that's called tweaking. Oop, that didn't work. So let's tweak it over here. Let's take those out because we don't want the people to know that part. If something that is supposed to be truth is rewritten so many times, that's usually because there's an agenda. Okay? Just some food for thought for my religious heads. And this is not just the Christian, a lot of religions. I would even say that I'm anti religion because I'm pro truth. And so I just cannot be bamboozled in that way. And I don't want to be a tool for the destruction of humanity through my limited or personal belief system. So your beliefs create your reality. And quite frankly, I'm not vibing with this particular reality right now. What about you? So, back to the topic, our propensity to look the other way is why soon we won't be able to, because every direction that we look in, we are seeing the same thing. So there's no looking away anymore. You know, this situation with Diddy, it's just a little tiny pebble in the water. It's a tsunami of this activity has been happening, and it has changed over time. It's gotten hidden, it's gotten deeper, but it's never not been that way. What I've been studying and what I've been trying to educate my son on is getting information from as many resources as possible, and just don't believe what makes you comfortable. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's getting uncomfortable where you get the most knowledge, that spark of, whoa, that resonated, that hit. Now, the amount of distraction that we have in culture and society is purposeful. You need to be in silence to process information. This is why sleep is so vital. But you can get silence at any point of your day, whether it's 5, 10, 30. And of course, I'm talking about a sort of meditation. I'm not going to qualify one type of meditation better than the other. What I'm going to say is that going into yourself to get insight, to become enlightenment, is the main purpose of our existence, in my opinion, to collect data and process it. Our brains are like mini computers, and there is a higher consciousness that we are all collectively connected to. And we can see it and we can feel it. And the people who are in charge that we have been manipulated into giving our consent to them know this. They know that we are the engine, that we are the power source, that we are the battery. It's like Matrix. They tell us because they got to tell us. You know, there are certain hermetic principles and laws that if you read different books, you will see the connections of these laws. You know, there are hermetic principles that we must live by: mind correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, causation, and generation. Okay? These are the 7 hermetic principles. And whether you're aware of it or not, we're actually living them all the time. All the time. I'm going to do an episode just on the hermetic principle, and basically it's a blueprint on how to be a higher level vibrational being. And so these hegemonic forces know that in order to stay in power, they have to live by these principles or they lose everything. We have been basically bamboozled into just giving away our power. It is true, it is sad, but we're the ones stewarding the ship. But we're totally unaware of it on a day-to-day basis because we're distracted. There's a book by Noam Chomsky and Edward S. Herman called Manufacturing Consents. And it's basically a book that is talking about the whole title is Manufacturing Consent, the Political Economy of the Mass Media. So One of the things that's the bane of my existence, and I always say it on this podcast because I know who's behind all of this, is YouTube. My son's consumption of it, but now it's gone to Roblox because Roblox is now infiltrated with pedophiles and misogyny and really dark, disgusting behavior by the adults that are on there, indoctrinating children into this mentality. Yeah, that is happening on these gaming platforms. Now, since my son is half homeschool, half tutoring, and I am basically a single working mom with 95% of the day-to-day and caring because I have a narcissistic ex who took his liberties and has moved on and created two other children with a complete stranger that neither one of us knows. TMI, but just so you have a bigger picture. And then the world of narcissism and patriarchy would blame me for that. And because, that's what it's set up to do from the Bible and beyond, because the Bible is a mass media product. And so is the Quran, so is the other books. Some are better than the others. I will give that. I have read most of them, and some are better than others as far as a principle, but there is a constant theme of blaming women for the infidelities and the lack of impulse control of the male. Now, if you read that book, if you read the book that I mentioned earlier, which is the Terra Papers, he actually puts in the Hopi Indian creation story, puts in a reason why there is a lack of impulse. I found it to be fascinating. It also connects to a study that I read and other studies connected around it of Brunner's syndrome, which basically is a mutation of the MAOA gene. It's the same mutation that psychopaths have. There's an L variant that 30 to 40% of the male population has. Sadly, but it makes sense. A lot of those mutations happen in utero. And what increases the likelihood of those mutations, which I would say would be, I have this feeling it's the female revenge, is stress. The higher stress levels you have, the more cortisol you produce. I can tell you that I had the hardest time losing my midsection after pregnancy and while in relationship because my cortisol levels were out of this world, you know. You don't understand what that is as a woman because we're so programmed to just keep doing and doing and doing. So with my clients, the biggest and most important thing I have them change in their life is their sleep patterns. We need more sleep. Females scientifically need more. And I hate to even use the word scientifically anymore because it's such a dog whistle and it's such a separation of mind, body, and spirit. But it's the language that we have been programmed to speak to say it's verifiably true. But the truth is something that is connected to three principles: mind, body, and spirit. And that's why I work with people to realign those elements. And when I say spirit, I don't mean religion. Spirit is a higher consciousness and knowing that we all possess, and it makes us amazing manifestors and amazing visionaries. But the mass media and the different distractions have forced us into imagining something that is not to our benefit. It is benefiting 1% of the population, the Black Rocks, the Vanguards. These entities are the ones controlling and pulling our powerful, powerful manifestation abilities. And let me tell you something else about 1%. The number 1%, and I don't think it is a coinky dinky or coincidence. 1% of the population is considered to be psychopathic. 1%. That's about, and then it trickles down into other, that's the only trickle down economy that I see. It trickles down to other people, and then you've got people who have personality disorders, and then you have people who have this disorder, that disorder. In my opinion, the DMSR5 is a whole explanation for oppression. We're oppressed, and therefore we're reacting in, a normal way. you know there's a book by Gabor Mate called The Myth of Abnormal, and I love Gabor Mate because he is also the person who's been really talking about being a person of a particular faith and still fighting for humanity. The name of that book is called The Myth of Normal: Trauma, Illness, and Healing in the Toxic Culture. The title says it all. And what he's talking about is mind, body, spirit. Trauma is what they have to create for us in order to control us. Okay, so trauma is your mind. They break your mind very young, by doing horrible things to children. This is one of the things that the Diddy connection is with the trafficking of human beings. They break the mind. That makes your body sick. Illness, women have 90% of the autoimmune issues. Yeah. And then, healing is a spiritual experience. It's sitting in the silence and confronting those things and not running away, and seeing that you are in charge of your reactions. And it's a very powerful trinity. Okay. And so mind, body, spirit is where all ultimate understanding comes from, because the hegemony has worked diligently to dissect all things so that you cannot see where they all connect. And unless you get those connections back with yourself, you will not be able to connect what is being done to you. What is being done to our children. I know we want to live in this illusionary Stepford wife type of, reality, because we have been convinced that that will make you happy, but really it doesn't, because there's an internal battle and a screaming that's happening in a lot of people's heads. I talk to people all the time that don't know why they're unhappy, even though they have seemingly all of the things that are supposed to make you happy in this culture and society. Why are the wealthiest people the most depraved? Why are they doing all these horrible things to the earth? Because they're psychopathic. And somehow we let the psychopathy, and it's not, I shouldn't say we let it, we were bamboozled into it. And then we were threatened into it. The Crusades and other wars that are in place right now is just to create fear. And so I ask you to let go of fear and know just how powerful you are. You are. And then teach that to your kids. Kids are the most powerful manifestors because they just can be in the world of imagination to create an image. Language is very powerful, powerful. And it's no coincidence that I became an English teacher. ESL, I used to teach English around the world. It was a multifaceted endeavor for me. I got to see how other people lived. I got to see how other people understand. And I do this currently with my son. And I think that if more people got out of their comfort zones and just truly, truly went and explored the world, we'd have a very different world. But we've been trapped. We've been trapped for a very long time. And it takes us to look at the root of things, an epistemological look at the world. And that word means getting underneath to understand things more deeply. Okay? So our language has a very amazing power to create reality, to create fear, to create happiness, to create sadness, to create. All sound is vibration. All sound is vibration. The power of my voice and how I'm speaking and my tonality and my word choice is purposeful. Okay? I just wanted to read you the etymological explanation of imagination. The root of it is the faculty of the mind which forms and manipulates images. Mid-14th century, imagination, from Old French, concept, mental picture, hallucination, from the Latin imagination. My Latin really sucks right now. Imagination, a fancy, a noun of action, from past participle, stem of imaginary, to form an image of, represent, and then from imago, an image and likeness, from the stem of imitatari, to copy, to imitate. From the root, pi root, aim, to copy. To copy. That in itself should give you a lot to think about. And this is what I tell all of my clients. You will set yourself free if you cultivate a polymathic mind. Read more, question more, and be in more silence. Take your child, teach them how to meditate. I tried that. Oh man, we're so close. And then one day, a a-hole friend of my ex-husband's scared my son during meditation. Jump scared him. And it just made me so angry when I heard about this. This is after we separated, because my son and I have been working on trying to get him to meditate. He must have been about 7 at the time, over years and years, because as a child with ADHD, meditation is a tool. But some jarhead idiot guy friend who is too macho, who can sit in silence himself, decided to jump scare my son. And that created a trauma. You see what I mean? Certain personalities, certain demographics thrive on creating trauma. And I will tell you they're from European descent. I have no question. Anyways, I'm going to end our episode with that. Please follow, subscribe, go to thisreallifebooks.com, purchase some books that teach emotional intelligence. I also have a lovely clothing line called Gentle Reminders, where I create little t-shirts and products that remind us daily that we're all doing our best, that we are mirrors of each other. And also, please click the coaching link. If you're currently struggling with mind, body, spirit alignment, I do cognitive behavioral therapy coaching and EQ coaching, and I try to get people back to themselves, their higher selves. I'm very booked up, so if you can't find a time, just, send a message in the chat box, because there's a chat box there, and I will put you on our wait list. And when I get a cancellation, guess what? I'll get you in there. Okay? So I do hope you have a blessed day, and See you next time.